Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Zelda Speedruns. We have something different for you today. Start of the Breath of the Wild All Dungeons tournament. Uh, we're in the middle of group play before a small bracket stage, but we have Orcrist versus Roms in Group B, joined on comms by Tallest Thomas and by Tao. How are you two doing?
I'm doing great, Cobbs. Thanks for the intro. Welcome to, I think, the first All Dungeons tournament we've ever hosted. How are you doing, Thomas?
I'm doing pretty good. I was a last minute addition to comms, but super excited to watch some all dungeons.
Yeah, we've had a regular any percent tournament on ZSR for a number of years, but we decided there was enough interest for all dungeons. So, yeah, I mean, we got a kind of a long run ahead of us. We're probably gonna. My estimate would be that these races would be 1 hour 35 minutes to 1 hour 40 minutes, roughly. So, Cubs, why don't we just get our runners started, and Thomas and I can explain the run, set things up for people.
All right, race just got underway, so I'll hand it over to you two, and we'll get this going.
So maybe just a quick intro for all dungeons for folks who might not be familiar with the Breath of the Wild category. By dungeons, we do mean the 4 divine beasts and defeating Ganon at the end of the run. So Breath of the Wild doesn't have traditional Zelda dungeons. But we do have these 4 divine beasts, and the category, I think, as far as I know, Thomas, is named all dungeons sort of to keep in line with the naming scheme of the speedrun categories in other Zelda games.
Yeah, that's right. So all the other Zelda games have traditional dungeons, and they're pretty linear. Breath of the Wild, obviously, being the first open world Zelda game, we didn't really have the same kind of thing to go off of. So it was decided by the community to do all dungeons, being the divine beasts, and also Hyrule Castle is included on that, mainly because it has its own mini map.
And I think generally our convention has been that the main board categories should defeat Ganon at some point. So the game ends on the final shot landing on the eye of Dark Beast Ganon.
Yeah. So something to point out real quick. This is a newer route, and Tao, you'll be able to explain the mechanics a little bit better than myself. But after discovery and use of BLSS, which is a major movement tech we have now, this run has become so much more consistent and so much less painful to run because the old route heavily relied on bullet time bounces and some very, very finicky setups. So it's really exciting to see how popular AD has gotten.
Yeah, definitely our most popular category behind any percent. In terms of the new route, actually, Thomas, I think one thing that would be interesting to see is whether or not our runners decide to go for the Great Plateau Tower. That could be one way that these two runners deviate from each other. So for pretty much its entire life, the All Dungeons route got or activated the Great Plateau Tower. It seems obvious. There's a lot of travel distance. You want to have some warp points in the form of shrines that you activate. But somewhat recently, maybe in the past 7 or 8 months, a route that does not activate the Great Plateau Tower was found. And taking advantage of new movement techniques, runners can save the cutscene of like the tower rising from the ground in exchange for much more difficult movement. So currently, world record is on a towerless route, as well as maybe like the top 5 or 6 runs. Interestingly enough, Rom's PB is with activating the tower. So shortly after they complete the first shrine, we can see what route these runners have chosen for a race setting.
Yeah, I actually didn't realize that the new route is towerless because at least in the older route when we were using BTBs and everything like that, we would there was a couple of the BTBs to get to like I think Zora's Domain and a couple other ones that required you to warp back to Great Plateau and do a BTB from Plateau off to the next destination. So it'll definitely be interesting to see. Looks like Orcrist is having a little bit of trouble with the window clip to Temple of Time. He's going for an extended shield clip to get through. He got it. And the runners are back to even.
Yeah, Rom's had a bit of difficulty clipping out of the Shrine of Resurrection. Orcrist had some trouble clipping into the Temple of Time. They're roughly even now. One effect, I think, of Orcrist having to do in ESC there is that this might make his bombs clip a little finicky, so we can see how easy both runners clip into the bomb shrine.
Yeah, one of the big benefits of the Great Plateau reroute. So a couple years ago, before BLSS was really a thing, we would do Stasis, Cryonis, Magnesis, Bombs. That was the order of the shrines that we completed. Since BLSS was discovered and put in, we have changed it up. You now do Bombs, Magnesis, Stasis, and Cryonis. But a cool thing is clipping through the Temple of Time window actually sets our skew properly for the Bombs clip, so we can actually save a little bit of time with that. And it looks like Orcrist's skew worked out fine, though he did take damage from the pot as he was dropping out of the BLSS.
Yeah, and that damage has some effect on the wind bomb these runners are gonna do next. Just to add on to a question from chat, for Breath of the Wild, dungeons means divine beasts. The runners have to complete the 4 plateau shrines in order to advance the game past the Great Plateau. There's no skipping these. So the 4 shrines on plateau, we don't consider them dungeons, just requirements for completing the run. Okay, so Roms is going for Gamer Wind Bomb. Ooh, and maybe got caught on the ledge there.
Yeah, definitely got a ragdoll. Ragdoll cancel there. That was weird.
Yeah, Orcrist decides to go for kind of the safer Wind Bomb there that lands him up top. Roms does a BLSS to the end of the shrine, and Orcrist runs.
So I think for people that might not understand what BLSS is or what the heck we're talking about with that, BLSS means bow lift smuggle slide. And essentially what that does, or essentially what it is you hold your shield out, you hit the bow and pick up an item at the same time. So Link will now be holding the bow and the item above his head. You jump and cancel holding the item by pressing B. You pause the menu and unequip your shield, and the item should be stuck to Link's hand, and then you just have to step up onto any texture where Link will do a stepping animation, and you hold B, and Link will be able to slide pretty fast in any direction that you want. And you'll see racers wiggle as they go, and that's how we generate speed.
Yeah, the most important thing about BLSS is it can be activated as long as you have a shield, a bow, arrows, and your remote bombs. So pretty much anywhere. It travels without taking any health, without using up any stamina. So it is essentially a free ride across Hyrule as long as you have sort of the geometry to step up. And so here, Roms and Orcrist are going to start a slide over, and we'll see what route they chose. It looks like Roms is going for tower. And what's Orcrist going to do?
Looks like...
Is he?
He's passing it. He's going, he's going towerless. Okay, he's going
great.
towerless.
He's going towerless. So we have 2 different routes here. So just in the Great Plateau, Roms is going to have to sit through this really, really super long cutscene. But in exchange, he gets kind of an easier time for the rest of the plateau. He's not going to have to clip into any of the other 3 shrines. He can just walk up to them and activate them. Orcrist is going to have to clip through all of them, and also later on, Orcrist is going to have to do much longer slides to his different objectives, whereas Roms can take advantage of having warp points across the map. So we'll see. In terms of advancing the game, we're going to see Orcrist take an early lead as Roms waits forever for this little water droplet to drip down. But then we'll see how Roms can possibly make up for that time later on.
I'm interested to see. I don't know all dungeons all that well. Is he going to be doing the what I call the cursed wind bomb ragdoll lag stop to get to mag?
So Rams needs to do a wind bomb off this tower to get to the Magnesis Shrine. There is an invisible wall surrounding the tower right now that he has to get over. And without the paraglider, he cannot land safely. So he needs to trigger the game to ragdoll cancel him. And it does not look like he did. So Rams needed to generate enough lag that the game would cancel his ragdoll animation so that he could do a fall damage cancel. And that can be a little bit finicky, and it looks like Rams didn't get it, so he reloads to try again. So he gets it there and completes the fall damage cancel. Meanwhile, Orcus has completed the Magnesis Shrine and will be on his way to Stasis next.
Now, this BLSS that Orcus will be doing here is probably the most difficult one to do really well on the Great Plateau. You essentially have to thread a needle. He's going to go to the left, run up this wall, do his BLSS setup, and then he's going to be going straight through the middle of Great Plateau, past the tower again, and then up a little hill through a passageway, and then has to cross through a bunch of trees and everything to get to another tree where he'll wind bomb up to Stasis. This is very difficult and very annoying because if you hit pretty much anything on the sides or you don't have enough speed going up this little slope that he's about to get to, it can really just lose a ton of time.
Definitely the split on Plateau that has the most variance.
Looks like he did it pretty cleanly there.
Thomas, do you prefer this white tree or the brown tree that's a little further away?
I have only actually ever done the white tree setup. I've never tried the other one,
okay.
But white tree seems to work the best for me with the timing and everything like that.
So Orcus had a pretty clean split there as Rams finishes Magnesis. And Rams will now go through the same movement here. I'm a brown tree fella. I will take the small time loss in getting to the brown tree in order to have what I consider an easier wind bomb up.
The wind bomb, I do want to point out, is a lot more difficult than it looks. It does actually require a specific timing of dropping both bombs, and your stamina activation and detonation times it's all super time dependent. You'll see if Rams does the white tree setup, you'll see they will wait a quarter stamina to drop the square bomb and then detonate immediately in order to get more height out of their wind bomb.
Yeah, the ledge is pretty much at the peak of the height that you can get off a wind bomb, and so sort of any deviation from getting sort of the max height on it. Ooh!
Oh no, the Swiffy jump!
Swiffy jump.
So that is there's actually a wind bomb that can be used inside of Stasis to just kind of skip the whole thing. But the jump that Orcus is doing right now, we have named the Swiffy jump lovingly after an any percent tournament where one of our community members, Swiffy, anytime they mentioned that this jump was fairly easy, someone was cursed and failed it as soon as they said those words. So unfortunately...
Yeah, I was going to say Orcus picked the safer strat by running through, but then wasn't able to get that jumped 2 times in a row, so needs to try again. We'll see what Rams has chosen as his stasis strat here. Okay, third time's the charm for Orcus, and he finishes the stasis shrine.
Looks like Rams will be doing the run through. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it makes sense in a long run like this, from where we're estimating an hour 35 to hour 40 to complete the run. You kind of want to be as safe and consistent as possible, especially in the early game. Although even with safe strats, you can still fail them and lose a bunch of time.
Yeah. The wind bombs and the faster strats are normally used more in any percent, mainly because any percent Great Plateau is half of the run. As soon as we finish Great Plateau, we head right to Hyrule Castle to kill the end bosses. So we want to save as much time as we can on Great Plateau. In the longer categories, it really doesn't affect it as much.
Yeah, so here's another small advantage ROMs will gain, having kind of sat through the time loss of activating the tower, which is Orcus is going to have to attempt a pretty difficult clip into the Cryona Shrine, whereas ROMs, when he gets there, will just be able to activate the pedestal. So we'll see how Orcus does on the ESC. Ooh,
so you got the frame. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be seeing a couple more ESCs, so I think we should take some time to explain what they are. So a lot of the walls in Breath of the Wild are actually pretty thin. We can clip through them using a normal shield clip, which is get skew, shield jump at a wall, unequip at a certain time, it'll go through. The doors and some of the other textures in the game are actually double walls, so you have to clip twice in one jump. So what happens in an ESC is you will do a shield jump like you normally do for a normal shield clip, but instead of just unequipping and going through, you need to re-equip the shield on the second frame that Link is popping back from skew, and essentially do the same inputs for a second shield clip. And it's tricky, it's tough, because you only have, I think is it one frame? It might be 2 frames. It's difficult, especially on a game that only buffers 2 to 3 frames at a time. So it's definitely it's very tricky. It does save time. It saves a large amount of time in some of the divine beasts. But it definitely is a difficult trick.
Yeah, ESC is frame perfect, and the buffering, like Thomas said, Breath of the Wild only lets you buffer every 2 frames, sometimes maybe only 3. So getting frame perfect tricks with buffering is sort of a little bit of RNG. But we do expect there to be, I do expect both runners to go for ESCs in both Meadow and Naboris. We'll see that trick again. All right, so we're nearing the end of the Great Plateau. What's left is a slide to the Temple of Time in order to get the paraglider. And after that, it will be on to our first Divine Beast. Thomas, while we watch these segments for both these runners, do you want to talk a little bit about what are the advantages for us to do Va Meadow first?
So Va Meadow, let's see, you get Rivali's Gale.
Yep.
Which is insanely powerful in speedrunning. And also you get the Great Eagle Bow, which I think is very important. I'm not sure.
Yep, the Great Eagle Bow is basically the weapon of choice. It is the weapon that will be used in every ROMs.
Oh no,
ROMs
that's not good.
Spear there.
That is really not good.
I was going to say the Great Eagle Bow is going to be the weapon of choice for fighting the 3 blights that are not Wind Blight, and also Ganon. So ROM's losing that weapon there is a bit complicated because of another glitch that we haven't even started talking about, which is inventory slot transfer and its effect on this run. So earlier, Thomas mentioned that this run has become way more consistent than it used to be, and part of the reason is that runners are going to essentially get infinite ancient arrows and infinite fairies using IST. Whereas in previous iterations of this route, the food routing was so tight that like I think if you messed up like a couple of wind bombs, the run was dead. But with infinite fairies, infinite health, and a lot of attack power, the run is going to be much more consistent. The problem is the setup for IST is very, very specific. So Rams needs to replace that spear with some weapon. And so we'll see what backup he comes up with.
Yeah, I remember when I was learning the original AD route or the previous AD route. Yeah, if you messed up on your food, especially before Meadow, it was pretty much a reset. Food was very, very tight, and you needed to do, you need to have your cold resistance foods. You had to have everything planned out. There's special spots for everything. I personally don't understand how IST works. I don't know how the setup is or anything like that. I have yet to dive into that, but it is very cool. It's an absolutely mind-blowing trick in my opinion, and it not only affected all dungeons, but pretty much any of the longer categories in Breath of the Wild use it now, and it's changed everything.
Yeah, basically since last summer when it was discovered. Did you catch why Orcus blew himself up there?
No.
Okay. It looked intentional, but I wasn't watching closely enough. Maybe he didn't have enough health to make these next couple of wind bombs.
Possibly.
Anyway, so the runners here need to gain a certain amount of height in order to do a slide to their next objective. So we actually see a difference here between Rams and Orcus. Orcus is going to do a very difficult wind bomb plus midair up to this Malice pillar here. It is a bit faster than the strat Rams is doing, which is to go up onto Hyrule Castle itself. But it is much more difficult and requires very good stamina management as well as getting maximum height on both wind bombs. They're now going to the fairy fountain, which will get them the fairies that they need. And I guess without going too much into the technical details of what IST is, I'll just say it's an inventory corruption glitch. So the runners are going to manipulate their inventories and the way the game handles the information in their inventories in order to essentially dupe and modify the counts of the items that they want. It is very precise. So again, I think Rams needs one more weapon in his inventory since he lost that spear. But the overall effect of it is a much more consistent speedrun because essentially the runners cannot die after they complete IST.
I do want to say, anybody watching that does not understand the scope of IST and everything like that, do not attempt to do this on your main save file. It sounds cool to get infinite fairies, but you will screw everything up. So just don't. Leave it for the speedrunners.
And we do have resources in Discord to help people learn the speedrun setups. We have some pretty good route documents for all dungeons specifically, and all dungeons does have one of the simpler setups. Mainly, our runners are going to be getting 999 fairies, thousands of ancient arrows, and also just sort of randomly 8 or 9 rubies, because the run does need some rupees in order to, for example, buy some shock arrows later on, and also buy the Gerudo clothes in order to enter Gerudo Town.
So it looked like, did Orcus drop his BLSS there because he's super launched?
I think Orchrist, from what I know of his style, he prefers super launches when they're in range.
Okay.
I think most runners these days prefer BLSS just because of how consistent it can be once practiced. But there are some distances where a BLSS and a super launch essentially break even in terms of timing. And Orcrist, having been a long time runner before the discovery of BLSS, I think still prefers super launches in those cases. Roms is a somewhat newer runner. I think came into the community a couple of years ago, and so he prefers BLSS in those situations.
Gotcha. Can quickly explain super launches because that's one thing I really do know well. So the game is very interesting when it comes to compensating for lag. So sometimes you'll run into a issue where there's just too much going on the screen or you're menuing and the game kind of lags and you can see frames drop. And the way that the game compensates is it actually speeds Link up in order to compensate for the delay in frame rate. So super launches are probably one of the oldest pieces of speedrun tech we still use. They were discovered way before wind bombs. They were discovered back in the days of stasis launches. And essentially what we do is we actually induce lag on purpose. So you'll see them, you'll see the runners quick menu, and then pause, and then unpause, and then repause, and then they'll pull the glider out. In order for a super launch to work, you have to pull the glider out on a lag frame. So the second pause is to buffer so we can do the inputs to slide quickly from cancel to paraglider pull. But it does move you a lot faster than a normal wind bomb. But that being said, it is also a little bit trickier because it is another frame perfect trick.
I just want to jump in, and it does look like Brahms got his backup weapon. I couldn't really tell what that is. It's either like a knight's or a soldier's claymore. Essentially, you saw him kind of drop and pick up his weapons just to rearrange them because the order of the weapons in your inventory also matters. And so right now, if you've never seen IST before, none of the actions that the runners are taking right now make any sense to you. But what they're doing is performing the inventory manipulation that will hopefully result in them having the materials that they need to complete the rest of the run. One thing I have not investigated too much is to see what kind of backups runners might have if they aren't successful in this setup, but hopefully we don't see that. It is a very difficult glitch to back up if it's not successful because it leaves your inventory in a state where it might not be recoverable.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, I have no idea what's happening.
I've been told that if you're familiar with Ocarina of Time and the reverse bottle adventure glitch, that IST has the same kind of feeling of like dropping random things, picking random things up, and ta-da, you have everything you need for the rest of the run. All right, moment of truth for ROMs. That arrow shot was the last part of the setup, so the reload should get him to the inventory state that he wants. Orcrist is just right behind with that same step. So we'll be able to check because the runners are going to go up to the shopkeeper one more time to sell their rubies, and we should see 999 fairies along with those rupees. Oh, or 400. Pretty much the same. 600 for Orcrist.
Okay.
If you're wondering, that is way more than enough. I think the runners will use at most 100 throughout the entire run.
Ooh.
A little bit of snap back there for Orcrist.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing, a lot of time lost that happens in Breath of the Wild actually comes from hardware issues, not necessarily the game being mean. The Nintendo Pro controllers are not the greatest all the time, so you will see things like mismenuing and snapback happen quite often during runs a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think consensus is that the Procon is the best controller for speedrunning this game. Like there aren't really any third-party controllers that can kind of compare to it. But at the same time, yeah, D-pad issues, snapback issues with the left and right sticks.
I would protest that a little bit. I do think the Power A Pro controllers are great for categories where you don't need amiibos. The Pro controller is used by pretty much any percent runner because we scan amiibos, and all shrines I think now also uses amiibos a lot. So that's that. But if you don't need the amiibo functionality, I ran a Power A controller for a very long time, and I feel that controller is built way better.
All right, Thomas recommended Power A controllers.
So on to our first Divine Beast.
Yeah, one change here, one small change here, Thomas, you might notice from when you were learning this category is that these cannons go down with one ancient arrow.
Yep, normally we used to have to do, what, 2 or 3 shots with bomb arrows?
Yeah, two bomb arrows. Oh, Rom's attempting kind of this difficult updraft midair.
The spicy midair.
Let's see if he chooses to back it up. Yep. Basically, Roms wants to be floating at the center of this divine beast, which will give him an angle on the 3 remaining cannons. He's going to try to shoot all of them from this location. Nice sequence there from Roms. Orcris gets the wind bomb first try.
And this again is another great point of IST and everything like that, because this segment used to be so stressful. If you missed more than I think like 2 shots with the bomb arrows, you had to start the whole sequence again. You wouldn't have enough arrows for the rest of the run.
Right, and our runners have 4,000 ancient arrows right now, so no issues with running out of arrows. Bow durability will actually come into play later in the run. But arrow routing is completely solved by IST.
Yes, 4,000 arrows should be enough.
Should. If they're not, something will have gone very wrong.
Horribly, horribly wrong.
So there are a couple of variations for completing this Divine Beast. A lot of the strategies and the routing hasn't really changed much in the 5 or 6 years of this category, but there are some micro strats that might be different. So, for example, coming up, heading to the first terminal, Roms is choosing to run, which is the sort of the traditional way that we've done it for a while. But there's also kind of a very tricky, precise BLSS that you can set up that is slightly faster. So, Orcris has been showing he prefers the slightly faster tricks so far. So we'll see if he goes for it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he will be. He practiced this quite a bit, but it is a little tricky because you pretty much have to steer Link in reverse, which is really annoying in BLSS, but you can't argue with the speed of it.
So here's the return of ESC here. Roms was trying to ESC there, but sort of unequipped on the wrong frame and ended up ragdolling and probably lost skew there. So he's going to back this up. I guess we'll call this the glitchless way by floating out here and floating to this terminal. In all, I think the ESC probably saves like 10 to 15 seconds. We'll see how Chris does on the ESC here.
Nice.
When is Link going to get some clothes? Question in chat. Actually, in the sequence for Vana Boris, our runners are going to pick up some clothes because you need to have the right clothes in order to enter Gerudo Town. And so part of the reason why the runners needed rupees is to buy the Gerudo clothes. So Rams there chooses to, oh boy.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I was just about to say that was a great save because their BLSS was way too fast.
Rams chose to do the slide from one end of meadow to another. You see Orchrist doing the midair wind bomb instead, but there's a specific place the runners have to land in order to be able to get over this malice. You see Orchrist doing it right now, and Rams landed in the middle of all of that, and that doesn't actually give him a pathway through.
This might be my favorite sequence right here of this dungeon.
Well, there's also some variation in strats here about like when you stasis this thing and how you decide to shoot it into the button. Nice.
It's so good. It's so good every time.
Our runners are giving us a lot to compare because Rams is doing an older strat where you hit the battering ram 3 times and just use the momentum from that to propel it. Orchrist hit it just once, and that moves the battering ram into a position where the gate closing on it actually pushes it into the button. So side by side, you're seeing pretty much like all the different variations on this route right now.
Beautiful for phase 1.
Does that work? Orchrist turned straight over to right above the boss pedestal and shot an arrow right before the cutscene. Does that actually hit Windblade?
We'll see. Yeah.
Well, maybe it was just a.
I think it was just a pre-positioning.
Yeah. Ooh, doesn't get the one cycle there. Just missed one shot. Maybe hit one of the little satellite things that Windblade throws out instead.
Overall, a very clean fight from both our runners, actually.
Yep. They're going to skip the heart container here. No need for extra hearts when you're running on hundreds of different fairies. And coming up, both runners are going to get the Great Ego Bow that we mentioned before, but this is going to be a big difference between their routes. Remember, Rams activated the Great Plateau Tower, and that means that the Cryonis Shrine is open for him to warp to, and that is going to be what he chooses to do. Warp to the Cryonis Shrine in order to have a shorter path to the Gerudo Desert. Orchrist does not have the Great Plateau Tower. He cannot warp back to the Great Plateau, and so he has to do a slide all the way from Rito Village to Gerudo Town. So we're going to get a pretty good side-by-side comparison of the timing on this segment, actually. Because although it seems just describing Rams's route makes it seem like it's a little easier, warping and loading screens in this game take forever.
And they are inconsistent.
So there's this loading screen, and then there's going to be like 10 to 15 seconds that Rams has to wait while, Link warps in, and then maybe a 1 or 2 seconds more before he actually gains control. Yeah, Ram's got tower. So this sequence of Orchrist sliding all the way from Rito Village is slower than Ram's. Not slower by much, but it is slower. And I think The no tower route gains a lot of time over the tower route just on skipping the cutscene, but then like loses little bits of time here and there. Altogether, for a much more difficult route, Orcrist, I think the community has sort of had a consensus on Orcrist saves like 20 seconds optimally over ROMs.
It's absolutely mind-blowing to see how far this game has come in the past couple of years. In terms of movement tech and everything. Like when I started running the game, we didn't even have wind bombs yet. So seeing things like IST and BLSS and all this craziness has it's really awesome, and it's just honestly it's just a great show of how awesome the Breath of the Wild community is, because we're still finding new stuff in this game.
It is pretty amazing that movement is so much easier now. One quick difference there, Rams was able to activate the shrine Dako Chise. He's going to use that as a war point later on. Orcrist obviously cannot activate that shrine, and so we'll get to see some differences in their movement options later on too. But right now, they're both buying the Gerudo clothes, and so here is pretty much the end of Underwear Link in this run.
We get Bonita Link for the rest of the run.
There'll be some Zora armor.
That's true. That's true. Do you remember what old AD Link used to look like at the end of the run? Because it was wild.
Yeah, the flameproof armor.
The flamebreaker armor. You had the Gerudo outfit on still. It was weird.
I remember thinking it was actually kind of appropriate in the old AD routes. Link ends up with like one piece from each of like the 4 nations of Hyrule. Like he's wearing something from everybody. Now is not the case because we have hundreds of fairies. The runners are going to skip the flamebreaker armor. One thing to note about, well, I didn't mention this when Rams got it, but both runners are going to pick up 30 shock arrows here. You do need 20 shock arrows to approach the Divine Beast's Va Ruta, and we can sort of cheese that. Normally, casually in the game, the characters tell you to go up to this plateau and like scavenge for 20 shock arrows. We kind of cheese that by just buying them here in Gerudo Town.
Also, we need them for solving puzzles inside of Naboris.
Well, BTBs are not dead because Rams is going to be approaching 2 different BTBs on his way to fight Master Koga in the Iga hideout. And so these are very, very precise. And like all BTVs, we're just going to pray that everything lines up and that Rams gets all the right frames that he needs to.
At least it's a Bokoblin BTB.
Yeah, no Lizalfos. Oh, that's a beautiful first BTV.
That looks good.
From Rams. He's heading up. Well, maybe could use a little bit more height, but he's going to head up here, and he's got a little bit of. Okay, he's going to do 1 wind bomb to a Moblin BTB.
Looks like Orcra's got the super launch over to the BTB as well. So for the viewers, Moblin and Bokoblin BTBs are much easier than Lizalfo BTBs. Lizalfos have very weird... I think their wireframe is just very strange, and it's very inconsistent and very wild on if you get the correct angle or not. Bokoblins and Moblins. Bokoblins are the easiest. Moblins are slightly harder, but also a lot. They're pretty forgiving. But yeah, those alpha BTBs are a nightmare.
So Orcris got a higher angle, but also a slower one, and he's kind of slow gliding to a point where he could probably wind bomb to the Moblin BTB. Roms has arrived at the Yiga hideout. If we clip into the back of the Yiga hideout, we skip the entire entrance sequence where you have to sneak around, drop bananas to distract the guards, a whole like Metal Gear Solid in Breath of the Wild sequence, and we just walk out the back door and trigger the boss fight. Yeah, Vlad is saying, I noticed that too, Vlad, that when Brahms landed, the door of the Yiga hideout was actually unloaded. I don't know if, I don't even know how we would test how consistent that is. So you see right now, the door is unloaded for Orcris as well. I don't know, maybe a subject of future research in this category. Oh, interesting. So Brahms decides to approach this fight by using the Great Eagle Bow and Ancient Arrows on Koga. We'll see how Orcris does. I know some runners decide to spin with the Royal Claymore instead. Durability on the Great Eagle Bow is a little bit of an issue by the end of the run, just because it's the weapon we are going to use on all of the bosses. Okay, so Roms must have like a very specific routing in mind because he is using the Claymore on the second phase.
Something we can quickly explain too is the fact that Roms and Orcris DLC will face away from Koga as they start to do the spin attacks, and that's because in Breath of the Wild you can get double hits if you are doing a spin attack and you move backwards towards your target versus just spinning at it normally.
And we saw Roms pull that metal ball to the side and try to fling it to Koga. If you do it correctly, you can skip the need for the second hit because that first hit hits Koga both times. But Roms didn't get it there, and so just finishes the fight normally. Yeah, here Orcris is doing one shot with the Great Eagle Bow and then spinning with the Claymore, so he's conserving durability. One thing about all dungeons in Breath of the Wild, there are a lot of cutscenes.
There's a lot of cutscenes in general in Breath of the Wild. I know that even in any percent, there's a wild amount of cutscene, like proportionately to how long the run is.
Yeah, this entire time you see Orcris proceed through this boss fight, Roms has not really been doing anything other than mashing B. Oh, nice. Orcris got
it.
Yeah, the one hit phase 3. So Roms, having the Great Plateau Tower, now can just warp back to Gerudo Town. Orcris is not going to be able to do that. And we'll see how he fares on the movement back to Gerudo Town. It's going to be a couple of wind bombs and then a BLSS. So Thomas, what's your favorite divine beast here? Oop, Thomas needed a quick step away. So we've got more cutscenes, so maybe I will just run a quick explanation of Bolif Smuggle Slide since there was a question in chat. Basically, we put Link into a state where he is holding a bow and an object at the same time. And then when you step up on something, the game temporarily puts Link in a state where gravity doesn't affect him. And that allows Link to kind of float in midair while the object that he is holding is pushing against him. So here we see Orcrist doing the movement back to Gerudo Town that he's forced to do since he doesn't have the tower. Was a little low on that first wind bomb, but now is here at this very unintuitive step-up spot. This looks just like a flat wall, but Link can actually enter his step-up animation here, which is what triggers the slide. And from here, he's going to slide all the way back to Gerudo Town. Okay, got the step up floating and now can wiggle to propel himself towards his destination. Rams has finished the Riju cutscene and is now going to meet Riju at this outpost in order to start the Enter Naboris sequence.
It looks like Rom's got a pretty good super launch on that one, too. I know a lot of times folks will not get the right amount of height to land on the top of the platform and have to climb up and lose a little bit of time there. But Gerudo Desert is an interesting place because there's not a lot going on. It's very flat and sparse, so there's not much to generate lag off. So super launches are kind of difficult in this area.
So the Enter Naboris sequence, if you remember casually, involves riding this sand seal up to Naboris and shooting 2 bomb arrows at each of its feet in order to get it to stop moving so Link can enter. For a long time strat is we're going to use this duplex bow that we picked up in Yiga Hideout, which shoots 2 arrows at a time, and that will mean we can one-shot each of the feet. Another deviation between these 2 runners is how they choose to approach Naboris, because there's the old way, which is just to ride the sand seal straight at Naboris. That seems to be what Rams is doing. But there's also a detour you can take where you wind bomb to an area and start at BLSS. And sliding to Naboris is a little bit faster because you can skip the cutscene of Naboris charging up. So we'll see how Rams fares. Ideally, this will take him 4 shots, but things can always go wrong here. Rams, again, can't die because he has so many fairies, but it is possible to get knocked off the seal and have to chase after Naboris through the sand.
Looks like Orcrist did not get the speed he needed for getting to the platform.
That's a nice sequence from Rams.
Tao, which was your favorite Divine Beast casually? I'm interested.
Which was my favorite Divine Beast casually? I think Vom Meadow. I really liked the puzzles of like tilting the Divine Beast the right way. For some reason, that was the most fun when I played.
I will agree with you on that one. Meadow was my favorite. All right, so if knowing Orcrist like I do, he will be going for the BLSS to Naboris versus what Rams did, which was just riding the sand seal straight there.
Ruda was also fun. I think Ruda as a divine beast, I think, is somewhat unique in that like you use pretty much almost all the runes in solving the puzzles, whereas like other divine beasts, you can sort of skip needing to use some of the runes.
Orcrist not getting bullet time like he needs in order to get this wind bomb going.
Yeah, having a little trouble getting the wind bomb off of this sloped surface. Roms is setting up for Terminal 1 in Naboris.
There we go.
One thing that I'm slightly concerned about over on Rom's side is he just set skew for another ESC here, but I saw when he set skew, I saw Link sort of flick about, which means maybe he did not completely clear skew from the Meadow ESC, which would really affect his ability to clip later on. So we'll see.
His skew should have been cleared because he was doing the standstill riding, and shield surfing should clear skew.
All right, we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But shield surf should have cleared it. Do we get any prisoners?
There are 2 guardians here, which could get trapped in this area. Nope, doesn't seem like it.
Nope. It doesn't affect anything, but it's just funny.
You're sort of seeing one of the advantages of doing Va Meadow first and getting Rivali's Gale. Roms is sort of cheesing a lot of the puzzles in Va Naboris with Rivali's Gale. So he galed over, for example, that barrier, which normally you need like 2 electric orbs to power it up and lower the gate.
No, Smitch asked a great question. What are the names of the guardians? So I have a habit of naming all the guardians that I run into in runs. In Cryonis, that guardian's name is Greg. And in... no, that's in Magnesis. And then in Cryonis' name is Steve. I haven't run AD enough to name these 2 yet, but I'm sure I could think of something.
What if we named one of the guardians Smitch?
Smitch and Smooch. There you go.
Okay, here's the ESC from Roms to get out of this this cage here. Oh, nice!
And he was able to get it. Very weak skew, but impressive.
Yeah. Otherwise, he would just need to turn that barrel of Naboris 2 more times, and in order to be able to walk out, and that takes about like 20-25 seconds.
So Worker's having a little trouble with this terminal. Fell off of the little platform that you need to stand on when to activate. Is that the neck or the tail? I think it's the tail. I don't know. But when you activate it, the platform rises forward and you can fall backwards, and that's how we get to that terminal extra fast. But kind of slipped off and had to jump his way back on.
Well, at least on our streams, we had a little bit of a skip forward as the streams were synchronizing. Looks like Workers got the first terminal. Got a bad midair, so needs to kind of back this up in order to get to the next one. Looks like Roms had a clean Thunderblight fight and is finishing up on Naboris. So while we did end up talking to the Rito Chief after Va Meadow, because we wanted a great Eagle Bow, the rewards for finishing Va Naboris are pretty useless. So Roms is just going to warp to where the Divine Beast has kind of situated itself for the end game, and is going to start a slide. Actually, at this point, I'm sort of fuzzy on the final order of the 2 Divine Beasts. The routes have changed quite a bit, and the runners can go in different orders. I think Roms is going to slide to Eldon here. Oh, and looks like he's actually coming to the tower to gain even more height. Interesting. This is actually new for me.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I guess the slide from the feet of Vanaboris isn't quite high enough to get you into Goron City, but that tower, which now I forget if that's Gerudo Tower or Wasteland Tower, is like one of the highest points in the game. So maybe Roms has routed it in so that he wind bombs there, and so he can just have a straight slide into Goron City. Jason telling me that it is Wasteland Tower.
Work with the very clean ESC.
Clean phase 1-2 from Orcrist.
I remember
still sliding. Essentially going from southwest to northeast on the map. Sorry, TT, go ahead.
It's all good. I just remember when learning the old Naboris, you used to use bomb arrows to kill Thunderblight, and there was a possibility that when you did that jump off to get the nice air, that you could blow yourself up.
That was some style from Orcrist, shooting Thunderblight while it's still in midair. Yeah, so I guess that slide lets Roms land right next to Bluto.
It's a very, very interesting slide. I like it.
So I think Orcrist's route is going to deviate a little more at this point. Again, because so Orcrist does have the ability to warp to Vanaboris. The divine beasts are not covered in the skipping the Great Plateau Tower doesn't prevent you from warping to divine beasts. But it'll be interesting how he decides to where he decides to go. I guess TT, having watched Orcrist's practice recently, do you know where is he going to Zora's Domain or Goron City?
I'm pretty sure he does Zora's Domain. Mm-hmm. I am not 100% on that though. But yeah, I think it might be time for some fish drama.
Roms is attempting a Yunobo skip, or cannon skip, I guess. If he gets a wind bomb with adequate speed, which he did, he can just walk right into that cave and trigger the Yunobo conversation before the door has a chance to load in. Saves a good chunk of time when you get it. Smitch mentioning, yeah, at least there'd be some other stuff going on while each runner does fish drama. Yeah. I don't envy the commentators who might have to do twin fish dramas.
Double fish drama. So what we're referring to as fish drama is the introduction cutscene when you land in Zora's Domain and you go talk to the Zora, the king of the Zoras. It's a very long cutscene with a lot of dialogue, and it's just mashing, and it's boring, and there's nothing going on, that it takes a long time to get through it all.
And when the first bit of mashing is done, you do a little bit of running and you go right back into mashing.
Yeah, it's a lot of cutscene. So it's not the most entertaining thing, but it's nice that we'll have people doing two different things at once.
I think part of the reason for the differences in the route here, it's not just personal preference. I think because Rams has access to warp points after this cutscene here, he's going to win bomb to. I'm blanking on the shrine name, but he's going to be able to activate a shrine as a warp point, and then he's going to go to Zora's domain and warp back to Eldin in order to finish Varudanya. That ultimately saves Rom some travel distance, coming to Goron City first, then going to Zora's domain, and then coming back. But Orchrist doesn't have that option, so he needs to complete one Divine Beast in full before moving on to the other one.
Arker's getting to Zora's domain a little too fast, and the entire city wasn't loaded in.
Oh yeah, just a general commentator's challenge for the remainder of this tournament. Let's come up with as many fish.
Oh yeah, best fish joke.
Yeah, so Brahms activated that shrine, which I still haven't remembered the name of, and now Rams is going to do a slide to Zora's domain. Actually, fish drama is so long. Thomas, do you think Orchrist fish drama is going to be complete by the time Rams gets there?
Absolutely not. Like it's literally, isn't it like at least like 2 minutes? It's something insane.
It feels like it's 9 years.
It feels like forever.
Oh yeah. Rams is almost there.
Yeah. No, it takes 1,000 years to get through this.
These fish are so pesky. Oh,
Oof. Oof.
That's a good one to start on.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah, Rams is now in Zora's domain. Orchrist is not even done with Fish Drama Part 1.
Yeah. And now we're starting Fish Drama Part 1 on Rams. And then you just get it. But at least we get Sidon. That's the important thing. Look at him. Look at him in all his majesty.
Great teeth. Sidon always has great teeth.
All right, chat. Are we Team Sidon or Team Cass? Because I'm Team Cass.
Why did they spend so much time carping? Oh, KB.
Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez.
We got some other Cass followers here.
Do you know that the Zora's Domain have the highest intelligence out of all of the Zelda characters?
I did not know.
Yeah, it's because they're in one giant school. Boom. Eat that, other commentators.
Setting the bar high for
You gotta
future
set it,
matches.
Man. I knew I had it in me. I just had to think about it for a minute. Man, fish drama. Thought it was some lore IQ test. Nope, it's just a very bad dad joke. All right, looks like Orchrist is finishing up fish drama. And yeah. Wait, nope. Are we? Nope, we're still in fish drama. Fish drama part 2 for Robs. Oh my god. That's the skip we need. We need fish drama skip. When will it finish, MZ? MZ.
These cutscenes are eerily long.
Oh God. I don't know, but it'll be met with elation. Oh God, chat. I love it. I love it so much. I love it so much. All
Okay,
right.
gameplay.
Gameplay.
Urgus does a wind bomb in midair to talk to Sidon over here. There's more mashing.
There's more mashing, more Sidon flexes.
Yeah, but we're start to enter the we're going to begin the enter Ruta sequence here. There was recently a new route through Vavruta that was posted by ZDI recently, so it'll be interesting to see if Orchestra or Roms goes for that. A different order through the terminals.
I have not seen that. In case you don't know, ZDI is probably one of the best all dungeons runners of all time in Breath of the Wild. So the strats they come up with are pretty interesting sometimes.
Yeah, runner from the Japanese community. If you watch his runs, a lot of unorthodox things. I think typically like the NA and EU runners sort of converge on a specific set of strats, and sort of ZDI and the rest of the Japanese community sort of have a different approach in a lot of their runs. So
I also believe ZDI was the first one to break the sub 2 hour mark in all dungeons.
Oh wow, good bit of history there. So Orcris there was attempting to shoot a shock arrow before entering the waterfall, and that would have allowed him to shoot all 4 targets in one cycle. Didn't get that first shot, so he's going to do kind of the traditional 2-cycle strategy. Yes, we officially have gameplay again.
Oh man, I love it. I love it so much. I hope fish drama is just as painful for every other commentator. I do have to say I'm very happy to be commentating today. I took a very long hiatus from speedrunning this game, and I just recently got back into it, and it's really exciting to just come back and be met with the same excitement that was always present when I used to commentate the runs. 'Cause I used to commentate a lot of runs back in the day, so it's been really nice being back and everything like that.
Yeah, great to chat with you again, Thomas. Next one you commentate, you have to drop aficionado. But to update everyone on the run, our runners do look like they're neck and neck at this point, although Orcris has not been to Goron City yet, but Roms has. So there's that. After this, Roms will be able to return to Goron City much faster than Orcris, who will have to do another slide. We were wondering if it's going to be a 1-cycle per chance.
Oh God.
Okay, so let's see which route Orcris goes for. So the new route uses 1 gale to get up to the final terminals first, and it looks like Orcris is doing that. Yeah. So normally we, in the past number of years, we've gone to that cog wheel that Orcris will get to eventually. But what that did was put us on a cycle to get to this terminal that Orcris is doing first. And if you missed the cycle, that was really bad. But but runners eventually got good enough that they were beating the cycle by quite a long time. And so they would just kind of stand there waiting for the terminal to come around. Doing it this way eliminates being locked into that cycle.
Yeah, so I don't think Roms will actually be able to do that because they used their last Gale. I think Gale is still on cooldown. from their slide to Goron City.
Interesting. Because Roms used that gale to get to the top of Wasteland Tower. I wonder if that was a backup. Like if a better wind bomb would have gotten him to the top of the tower.
Yeah. I think they could have possibly done a midair to get up there, but Gale or just climbed, honestly, because they did land on the one of the top platforms, in the climbing area. But we shall see.
Yeah, so Roms is doing kind of the older route here. Thomas, how was your coggers back in the day?
Coggers. Oh man, I actually didn't. I don't think I ever got far enough into AD for this point because, like I said, like it was a very brutal category to run. We had a lot of what we called push BTBs, where we would freeze an enemy and then have to push them into place using our shield. And if they slid like the slightest bit out of way, you would have to redo the setup, and it got way too frustrating.
Push BTBs were the worst. For those who don't know, coggers is the name of the trick we use on that spinny wheel thing that you saw Orcrist and Roms do. Basically, Breath of the Wild, you can manipulate things with Magnesis with motion controls, and if you spin the controller in like this huge arc around you, you can actually spin that wheel much faster than just using the right stick, and we call that coggers. You do risk like knocking things off your desk when you do it, though.
Yeah, I feel like I would injure myself somehow.
Yeah, and Roms had an interesting way to do coggers too, which was it looked like he used Magnesis and swung it once, let Magnesis deactivate, and then re-engaged it to swing it another time, which is a strat that I've not seen a lot of runners do. So Roms has had a pretty good sequence here, so we'll see if he's locked by the cycle at the end or if he, makes it in time.
Yeah, the one time in speedrunning where being too fast is punishing.
Yeah.
Orcrist with a fairly clean phase 1 there.
Mm-hmm.
These fights have been trivialized because of the ancient arrows through IST.
Yeah, absolutely. It used to be we cooked up attack up food and used bomb arrows, but ancient arrows are power enough that attack up is no longer needed. Yeah, so you see Roms is here. He has to wait, let's count, maybe like 6 or 7 seconds for this terminal to be in place so that he can activate it. He can't activate it when it's like at a 90-degree angle or upside down.
Yeah, it has to be within reasonable level. He got his gales back, and he is on his way to the final terminal. Start the boss fight.
One thing we haven't mentioned is that for all these boss fights, we're essentially abusing bullet time here because in bullet time, Link and arrows fly at the same speed, and everything else is super slowed down. So you essentially get free shots on a boss when they can't really do anything.
Looks like Rom's just barely missed a 1 cycle on phase 1.
All right, let's see Orcrist's movement to Goron City. Roms finishes up Water Blight. So I think Orcrist is going to climb up this waterfall with the Zora armor, and he's probably going to find a spot to start a slide. looks like a tricky step-up spot.
Yeah. Nope, he dropped the bomb.
Rams gets to warp back to Goron City, and he'll just be right underneath where the Yunobo escort starts.
Which again, thanks to IST and Ancient Arrows, is no longer an issue. In the speedrun, we actually had to do it almost the entirely intended way. Hiding Yunobo, making sure he comes everything. Now they just run ahead and just shoot everything.
Yeah, the Guardians go down with one Ancient Arrow. And actually, the biggest danger, well, the two big dangers in this escort mission is essentially missing too many shots, which eats up durability on your bows, which you want to conserve both for Fire Blight and for Ganon at the end. And also actually going too fast, because if you go too fast, Yunobo falls behind, and then if he gets out of range of you, he just stops, and then you have to go back for him.
Yeah, a lot of Breath of the Wild speedrunning is just doing things at just the right speed. Because you can actually BLSS too fast. There is a speed cap in the game, so if you go too fast on the slide, the game will slow you back down to 0 again. That's how the game compensates a lot of times when there's just too much going on. It's just like, all right, there's so much happening. Let's just stop Link and let everything reset. And that's why the Ragdoll Castle we saw in the very beginning of the run that Rams did when he did the Wind Bomb over to the Magnesis Shrine. That's why that works, is because the game panics. And it's like, all right, we got to stop Link first and foremost. So that returns him out of the Ragdoll state into a normal standing state. Yes, exact speedrunning. But even in categories like all shrines, you have to do certain shrines at certain times of day. So again, you have to be like right on time and be there at the appropriate, get there at the appropriate speed and everything like that. So
Orcrist attempting the cannon skip here.
And lag stopped. Or dead angled. One of the two.
I think Yunobo as a character is pretty much universally disliked.
Oh yeah, no, everybody hates Yunobo.
I don't think Team Yunobo has any members.
It's like one person. And you got the
TT, I wonder if you've ever caught one of Orcrist's marathon runs where he's done like MSD, but he's in the past had an incentive for killing Yunobo.
Yes.
Yeah, do you remember how it goes?
No, I don't. It's been a while since I've seen that, but I do remember him having that incentive.
So I think if I remember correctly, that if you can, so you're allowed to freeze Yunobo in place by whistling during this sequence, and it's sort of the game's way to help you prevent Yunobo from walking into those sensors and raining hailfire on you. And so Orcrist does this thing where he sets up, he freezes Yunobo and then sets up a metal box right in front of him, and then stasises the metal box and charges up fully straight into Yunobo's face. And
that's amazing.
And it just sends Yunobo flying. I think you need to save and reload after that, because you can't complete the escort mission without Yunobo, and the game will put him back when you save and reload. But it is a hilarious scene.
That is phenomenal. Yeah, I do have to say, Orcrist is one of my good friends. We actually started. I think he started speedrunning the game about a month before I did, and me and him are like roughly the same age. Like we have become really good friends over the years that we've been running. He's stayed consistent, and he's moved on to mainly all shrines and a couple other categories. And I, mainly stuck with any percent. But yeah, no, I love the shenanigans that he does in his runs. Sometimes they're great.
Roms also, I want to mention, has contributed a bunch to the speedrun community recently. I know he and some of the other French-speaking runners have recently started compiling resources for a French-speaking audience. And Roms has a bunch of tutorials AD related. And most recently, I think I've seen him practicing Hundo. Oh, this is interesting. Sniping these from a distance while you wait for Yonobo to catch up with you.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know if that saves any time because this is essentially one huge auto scroller, but
yeah, but it might save some sanity. Only the retired speedrunner extraordinaire Jumbo Moosis. Yes, only OGs remember Jumbo Moosis.
yeah, so you kind of see if Roms runs at full speed, you can kind of see the Yonobo icon on the minimap, which is hilariously just his face.
Big old Yonobo head.
Yeah. But if Roms runs at full speed, eventually Yonobo's going to drift off that minimap, and that's usually the indicator of when Yonobo just stops following you entirely. So Roms is trying to push ahead, but trying also to keep the Yonobo icon on his minimap.
Yeah, that minimap is used for quite a lot of different things, actually. Even though we never really activate any of the map parts itself, we do use that minimap for things like aiming wind bombs, certain clips, and also keeping track of where your speed is at when you're doing like a BLSS or something, because you can tell how close you are to speed cap by the position of Link's marker in the center of the minimap. I wonder if anybody can do any of these strats without using the minimap, like turn off the heads-up display.
Oh, the Pro HUD?
Pro HUD any percent. I want to see it. Someone do it. It's Mitch. It's you.
I think a Pro HUD run is one of those stipulation challenges that if you are well-versed in Breath of the Wild speedrunning, you'll think of that as like, damn, that's one of the hardest things I've ever heard about. But if you don't follow the speedrun that closely, you think like, what's the big deal? I see Pancake in chat, and yeah, Pancake did a Pro HUD Hundo, which is...
That's impressive.
The amount of memorization you need to know which like we use the mini map to set angles, right, to know which direction we're going in, and the memory it takes to do that for Hundo is really impressive.
Yeah. And the reason the minimap's so important and why we keep saying we use it for aiming wind bombs and stuff is because at certain angles, if you do a round bomb, a circle bomb first wind bomb, it just won't work. That's what we call dead angles. So being able to aim into not a dead angle without a minimap is very impressive.
So Rams is in Varudanya now. He's going to do one terminal while it's still pitch black, and then he's going to activate the map in order to open up the rest of the Divine Beast and to be able to see. And then coming up after this cutscene is going to be the trick shot.
Oh yeah, this shot has been around for forever, and it's awesome.
Yeah, I think casually you're supposed to grab a torch, bring the blue flame outside of Varudanya, tilt it, and then light this lantern, which will activate this thing, which gets the ball rolling and stuff. We're not going to do that. Runners are going to aim at a specific spot and get an angle, get an arrow that's been lighted by the blue flame to ricochet off a wall and onto the lantern.
And Orcus still making his way through the Unobo escort, nuking a moblin real quick.
Ooh, misses his first attempt. So he can just go and try again.
Oh no.
Over 2. There we go.
Third time. So it is important to note that the runners do have a limited amount of attempts on that specific shot because they use regular arrows and not ancient arrows. So they have very few of those. While it's not likely that they use all of them, it's still a possibility.
Rom's thought twice about checking whether or not he actually got the eye shot on that Malice over there. Decided he did. Orcris is nearing the end of his Unobo escort. That's a neat little strat that's been around forever. If you just crouch, you can walk through that little hole.
Yep, as long as it's sideways, you can do that.
Alright, this will be the 5th terminal for Roms, and then he'll enter the Fireblight fight right after this.
¡Atención a los padones!
And again, just like every other boss, just abusing bullet time and ancient arrows. How we just melt through all these bosses.
Phase 2 for Roms requires breaking Fireblight's shield. Runners can do it with either a Bosa's Fury or just a bomb.
You can also do it with a bomb arrow.
Well, not in Elden.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. They explode right away. I forgot that. Shows how much of the game I know.
Well, actually, I didn't know that the bomb arrow worked until very, very recently, when I was running all Kilton medals, and there you enter the boss rush in Castle with bomb arrows. So that's how I learned.
Yeah, for those who don't know, since the runners are killing each of the bosses in each of the respective divine beasts, they will not be in Hyrule Castle like in any percent or any of the other categories that we run, like all shrines or anything like that. Because if you go straight to Hyrule Castle from Great Plateau, there is a boss rush. Each of the bosses are there. You have to beat them in one go, otherwise you have to start back at the beginning of the first one. So when they do get to Hyrule Castle after Rudania, they will be just fighting Calamity Ganon right away.
So Roms has now completed all 4 Divine Beasts, and the main reason why we want to end up in Goron City and finishing on Vah Rudania is that this slide to Hyrule Castle is the shortest of really any of them. usually Meadow and Aboras are first. So if the choice is between ending in Zora's Domain or ending in Goron City, it's better to end in Goron City. So if you were still wondering why like ROMs did sort of some awkward movement of going to Goron City first, going to Zora's Domain, and then coming back, it's because we want to end in Goron City.
Looks like Orcus got the trick shot first try, so saving a little bit of time there. Ooh, missing the malice though.
Yeah, in previous routes there was a essentially a calamity skip where runners would fire into the cutscene and then trigger it. And the arrow would be stuck in the cutscene, dealing damage to Calamity Ganon, and so we wouldn't have to fight. But with the Great Eagle Bow and Ancient Arrows, it's actually roughly the same amount of time and way more consistent to just enter the fight, skip all the cutscenes, and just shoot Ganon down with Urbosa's Fury and Ancient Arrows. Kind of a flashing light warning.
Yeah. Yeah, so getting headshots on Calamity puts them into temporary stun, so they're able to just, once they land that first one, they can sit there and just chain hit with Ancient Arrows. Also don't need to do the laser parry like in any percent because we have Urbosa's Fury, which breaks Calamity's shield.
There we go. Roms is done with Calamity and into the Dark Beast fight.
Dark Beast, the ultimate auto-scroller of the game. Pretty much a timed event. You just got to hit some targets, and that's it. It's very, very simple. But I will say, you can die here. And I have seen it before, and I have done it before.
Well, in any percent, maybe. Our runners cannot die
Yeah.
here.
Well, yeah, they can't die here, but... Everything is a lot more forgiving in AD than any percent.
Orcus is done with Varudanya.
They purposely have their fairies disappear. Yeah, just drop all the fairies. On purpose. Only 2 shots left of the run for Roms. There's one in the underbelly, and then the final one into the big ol' eyeball.
I think maybe to give viewers just a sense of like how powerful like having 400 fairies is. I think when you're in Elden, you tick down half a heart every second because of the burn damage. So you use up a fairy every 6 seconds. So with Roms having 400 fairies, it would take at least half an hour, like 40 minutes, in order for Roms to actually die of just standing around doing nothing. Oh, our stream skipped a little bit. Did Orcus lose his BLSS while he was
Looks
there?
Yeah. Looks like I think he probably got, call it combination dead zone and load. GG's to Roms for finishing 137. Pretty respectable time there.
Absolutely. And for races, we do start timing on new game, whereas as for leaderboards, we start timing on gaining control of Link. So there's about a minute difference between those two. So we'll estimate Roms has roughly a 136. Not a bad backup from Orcrist, losing that BLSS. Falls down, does a wind bomb in midair up to Sanctum.
Yeah.
Okay, while we watch Orcrist wrap up Phase 1 of Calamity, I don't know if Roms wants to come in for a quick interview to wrap up the run.
And Orcris is on to Dark Beast. It is really cool to see all dungeons runs being this much faster now. I remember when a 140 was like a pipe dream and insane. So it's definitely very cool.
Yeah, for the longest time, I think Johnny was like the only sub 140 player when he had world record. Interesting bit of trivia: if in this Dark Beast fight, or Chris does a little what we deem to be RNG manipulation. If you manage your durability carefully, you can actually skip the Bow of Light here in the final fight, because Ancient Arrows do take down these targets. You don't need the Bow of Light. Welcome in, Roms.
Welcome
Hi, everyone.
Roms. GG on your run, man.
GG.
Yeah, thank you.
How did you feel about that run? I think you finished with 136 or 137?
135.
Oh,
135, 55 in RTA. So it's a pretty good run, despite the meadow segment, which is very. I was very bad at it, and the tower, the wind bomb from the tower too. But the rest was pretty fine.
We noticed you lost the Boko Spear when you were falling to Temple of Time, and so that affected IST a little bit. What were you thinking at that time?
Yeah, I was like, do I to recover and grab the Boko Spear in the Temple of Time? But we just have to have 3 weapons for that IST. So I grabbed one when I took the Claymore. It's a recovery, a nice recovery, but yeah, the Boko Spear just threw. I just threw it. So.
Yeah, it looked like it would have been recoverable, but it was starting to fall down the holes in the Temple of Time roof, and that was like, okay, maybe you can't grab it now.
GG to Orcrist. But Roms, I think neither TT or I are active all dungeons runners, so we don't know all of the nuances of the category. We noticed you're doing the tower route.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about your decision to get the Great Plateau Tower? Because we know sort of the top runs these days skip the tower.
Oh yeah, I took the tower because I never do a towerless run, and
Okay.
it's just more consistent, and so I go for it.
So that's a very valid reason to do it.
Yeah, of course.
Welcome in, Orcrist.
GG's on the run.
Is Orcrist in here? Maybe I'll get the audio set up in a bit. Roms, another thing I hadn't seen before was your wind bomb to Wasteland Tower after the warp to Naboris. How long have you been doing that? I haven't really seen that in other runs either.
Yeah, we just figured it out with Arna, another good runner, another French runner, and it's slower than using a gale plus a meter, but it's much more consistent, and I could climb, but I have to use my third gale before Ruta and Rudania, because I don't have more than 3, so yeah, I can't using one in Rudania after if I didn't use my gale here.
Yeah, and we saw that BLSS get you straight to Bluto in the end.
Yeah, it's I have much more height than the normal step up, and yeah, it's better because doing a wind bomb with that fire rocks falling, it's very hard.
Well, it makes sense. It's neat routing. Do we have an Orcrist in the channel?
Yes, I just had to tell Discord what my microphone was. Sorry about that. GG
No
rounds.
Thank you.
Orcrist, what was your impression of your run?
It's just everything that could go wrong did. I lost 30 to 40 seconds on every split except for maybe 3, so and that to gold rather, not to just PB, but yeah, just bad. I think nerves got to me a little bit, and I wasted my good run earlier today. I think I got a 135 something, so whoops.
Teaches you to practice.
Yeah, you just got to go in cold, man.
Yeah, just show up and expect everything to go perfect forehead. But yeah, I made a lot of mental errors and got frustrated by a couple things, but yeah, just not a good run. So I have no complaints. It's what happens in races sometimes. It's just nerves, different environment happens.
The pressure of not being able to just simply reset a run definitely changes your mentality when you are doing a race.
For sure. And I did make some. I should correct a mistake I made at the start. I didn't have any extra food, so you saw me kill myself at Hyrule Castle because I didn't have enough health to do the wind bombs up to the pillar. So just as a precaution, I should probably grab at least one of the thing in case I don't get the quick BLSS to the Temple of Time. So just another little mental thing I should keep together instead of just trying to expect it to go completely perfectly.
And Orcus, I think we'll ask this of a lot of runners throughout this tournament, but you ran the towerless route. Any particular strategizing around that, or was it just what you've been practicing?
Yeah, it's just the route that I've learned. I've never run all dungeons before, maybe a month ago, so I just learned
Okay.
but and that's not to say I've never done dungeon runs. I've done MSD
Right.
and AMQ, but never really looked much at just all dungeons. So I looked at the world record routes and just copied what they did and trying to go from there. And it's fun, and I don't think it's that big a deal. It's just a lot of more wiggling. But I hear it's not a lot faster than getting the tower. But
I think one thing that was fun about watching this race between you two is that you two had made a lot of different choices between the different splits and sub splits. So it was interesting to see kind of differing strats and how they line up with each other.
Yeah.
Maybe one question to end up on, and I was curious when you guys were going through this. Do either of you have a backup in case IST goes wrong?
How would it go wrong? I would just reload, I guess. Close the software and try again.
Yeah, just reloading or going for the old strat, but it's a bit slower, so reloading, I guess.
Yeah, I think the only way that I've really failed it before is I had an autosave sneak in after I made my first hard save one.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing that's really gone bad on me before. So I try to keep an eye on it as I'm doing the first reload. But other than that, you have the ruby to tell you whether or not your corruption is working. So that's nice. But yeah, I think that reloading is just the way to go. Try again, even though it's going to cost you a chunk of time.
Yeah, the checkup item is very very interesting in that case.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thank you both for an awesome race. It was great to see you two running. Great to kick off our All Dungeons tournament. Good luck in the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes, GG's.
Okay, Cubs, if you're there, you want to send us off?
Man, making me work. What's wrong? God, how dare you?
I know. It's like we didn't just talk for an hour and 40 minutes.
Well, then you can go for another 5 minutes. What's wrong? No, GG's, both runners, very well done. This is the second race of the tournament. I think we weren't able to get the first one on, but very much looking forward to seeing a few more of these. I know there's a couple more scheduled tonight, 10 and 11:30 Eastern. We're going to do our best to get them here on the main channel. If you're not following either runner, please fix that right now. Orcrist and Roms, give them both a follow, as well as our two commentators, Thomas and Tao.
Mine doesn't work. I changed my name on Twitch. It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Ah,
I know. I complicate
Hey.
everything. I complicate everything. It's fine.
okay, well, pretend to find Thomas then, I guess. I don't know. No, very much looking forward to the rest of this tournament. Please keep an eye on the schedule. Lots more coming up on ZSR. Got plenty of things starting in the next week or so. Any final thoughts before we head on out of here for the moment?
Thanks for having me. Great job, Tao, on knowing about all dungeons, unlike me. Always good to talk to you, man.
Yeah, this was fun. Good luck again to Orcrist and Roms. Looking
Thanks for
forward to
watching.
see your races in the future.
Thanks for watching, everybody.
All right, we will head on out for the afternoon then. Be back in about an hour for an Ocarina of Time rando race, so if you're interested in that, we will hopefully see you then. Otherwise, until next time, everyone stay safe. We will see you back here soon, and have a great afternoon. See y'all.